Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today we're back with my 1995 Ford Probe, which has now got 12 months MOT on it with not a single advisory item, and I thought I'd give you a bit of an update. After we last spoke, which was about 6 weeks ago, I was unsure whether to go ahead with the work or not. I'd ran it to my mechanics and they said that it needed 4 tyres, a little bit of welding and various other bits and pieces. I think front and rear brake discs and pads. And at that point I just didn't know whether to see it through or not. But I did, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I had the MOT done, I had the tyres replaced, I had the brakes replaced, and it passed with not a single advisory item, so I was quite pleased. Then I spoke to my mechanic and said, while it's down there, give it a full service. Change the spark plugs, the fluids, the filters, the whole lot. I want to make sure it's all running correctly. So that's all great, isn't it? Just needs a wash, then it's ready to go. Great, great, great. However, it's now got a new trick, a new party trick. Watch this. When you start it, do you remember Stars in Their Eyes with Matthew Kelly? It looks okay now, but we're going to leave it a couple of minutes, then I'll rev it. Watch what happens. It's not great, is it, that? I certainly can't sell it like that. It was fine before, it wasn't doing this, and now all of a sudden with fresh oil, we've got a bit of a problem. It looks quite pretty, doesn't it? Having spoken to my mechanic, I suspect the valve stem oil seals are perished. They're letting oil in where it shouldn't, and the result is an awful lot of smoke. Here's the dilemma I've got then. The car cost me £1,100, the MOT and service cost me £1,300, the car itself is only worth £2,500, so I'm already the wrong way round. And then on top of that, we've got the cost of the oil seals. I could be well into this for like £4,000, and then it still needs some bodywork. In the words of Kenny Rogers, you've got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And I think on this occasion, I think I'm going to have to fold them. And it's a shame really, because I was really excited about this car. I've never owned one, never driven one. The closest I ever got to one was my neighbour had one as a kid, and I always admired the pop-up lights. At least they work. So I'm not a complete idiot, am I? It's a shame really, because the Ford Probe is actually a really interesting car. When I was looking into the history, just bear with me 1 second. When I was looking into the history of this, it has got a very interesting past. The Ford Probe was supposed to lead Ford into a brand new era, but in the end, ultimately, it just flopped. You see, in the 1980s, Ford and Mazda were becoming closer collaborators. At the time, Ford actually owned a big chunk of Mazda, and the two brands were sharing platforms and engines all over the place. Ford were looking at the future of the Mustang, and they must have been a bit worried. The traditional big V8 rear-wheel drive muscle car just didn't seem like it'd survive the new era of emissions, efficiency and global platforms. So they did something bold. They decided to kill it. It's hard to believe, but Ford were actually planning to kill off the Mustang and replace it with this. A front-wheel drive, futuristic-looking coupe that shared its engines and platform with Mazda. I mean, can you imagine? Every blue-collar worker in America would be up in arms, wouldn't they? They'd be using the Fifth Amendment right, wouldn't they? When the Probe finally launched in 1989, it was actually a decent-looking thing. It was sleek, it had those pop-up headlamps, which I'm a sucker for. It was nice and aerodynamic. It was just very modern and very futuristic. Underneath, it was based on the exact same platform as the Mazda MX-6. And that meant you got independent suspension, decent handling, and solid Japanese reliability. It's very easy to be critical of this car today. It's a bit of a wet rag. It isn't the quickest, doesn't handle the best, but 30 years ago, that was a different story. Certainly in terms of design and power, back in the late 80s, early 90s, this would have been quite competitive. Inside it had a 2+2 layout and sporty seats. And this second generation, like the one behind me, came out in 1993 and it was even more refined. They even offered it with a very smooth 2.5 litre V6, which made about 165 horsepower. Sadly, this car won't be remembered like a Mustang. In fact, it probably won't be remembered at all. And I think that's a bit of a shame because I always like to support the underdog. Now, before I tell you my plans, should we take it for one last drive? Quite a cool steering wheel. Now before we get any further, I just need to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. If you're thinking about buying a Ford Probe, or indeed any other used car or motorbike, it's really important that you do a thorough vehicle history check first. And I always use Car Vertical. So many cars out there have a hidden past, so with the Car Vertical check, it can just prevent you buying a complete lemon. So this will tell you whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage drawback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the ownership changes, the mileage, the MOT, It shows you the spec of the car, the average market value. Sometimes if it has been involved in an accident, it even shows you photographs of the recorded damage. Sometimes as well, I've seen this quite often, it'll show photographs from the last time the car was for sale. So you can compare the condition, which is quite a useful feature. And by the way, this isn't just a UK thing, it works in over 35 different countries. So if it's had a bump in Barcelona or a crash in Cannes, this will tell you. It doesn't take long, all you need to do is go to carvertical.com, I'll leave the link in the video description, and type in the reg or the VIN. If you'd like to do one of these checks for yourself, and I urge you to do so, then you can use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off each and every check that you do. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, HIGHPEAK, for 20% off each and every check you do. So yeah, cheers Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. Right, back to the Ford Probe then. And I've just lost the car behind me in a cloud of smoke. Still, got cool lights. Now when I bought this car, like I said, I'd never driven a Ford Probe before, so I was quite excited. And as soon as I got into the interior, which is typical 90s, I was still quite excited. But then in terms of what it's like to drive, it's just a bit lackluster, a bit vanilla, a bit beige. It certainly doesn't get your heart racing anyway. This particular one's got my lungs working, but not my heart. That might sound a bit harsh because it does drive very well, but it just feels like, well, it just feels like an ordinary hatchback. It doesn't feel like a sports car in any way, shape or form. It sort of feels like I'm driving a Ford Escort, only in a nicer suit. And weirdly, you know, it does kind of feel like I'm in a Japanese car. On the bright side though, the build quality is quite good. I quite like the design of the steering wheel. I quite like the design of the seats as well. It sort of aged quite gracefully, to be honest. But like I say, the whole thing's just a bit, I don't know, a bit bland. Nothing to write home about, as my grandmother would have said. Am I smoking or is somebody having a bonfire? I think it's me. Yeah, it's me. This really isn't good for my health. I suppose fundamentally a front-wheel drive car can only feel so sporty. Really, if you want to have some fun in something, you need a rear-wheel drive. It's a good thing Ford saw sense ultimately, isn't it? Because it'd have been a real shame to kill off the Mustang for the Probe. I mean, even the name's a bit weird, isn't it? It's a bit of an innuendo. So I think what I'm going to do with this car then is get it cleaned off so it looks at least a little bit better, and then just sell it as it is, as cheap as I can possibly let it go. Maybe £1,000 if I could get £1,000 back for it. It owes me currently £2,450. If I could get £1,000 back, I'd be quite happy. I've had one now. I can tick it off my list comfortably, can't I? I know a little bit more about it. I've done a video with one. I know the history of them. And like I say, because my neighbour had one as a kid, I just always liked the idea of it. His was navy blue and it did look quite classy. But then that was back in 1999, so it was probably only 3 or 4 years old. I think right now then I'm going to head straight to the car wash and leave this for a mini valet. Then once it looks a little bit better, I'll get it back to work, do an advert for it, I'll be completely honest about it, and hopefully try and find a new home for it. Somebody who appreciates it a bit more than I do, maybe. Somebody hopefully who's a bit more enthusiastic. Somebody who can work on it themselves. That'd be alright. This would be a perfect starter classic because it's still somewhat reliable, apart from the smoking issue. And it's certainly interesting and it definitely turns heads. It's definitely the sort of thing that you could take to car shows and it would get some attention. They're just cool, those lights. I need to stop buying things on a whim. Do you remember a few years ago I bought an SL500, an R129 model, and I bought it just because it had an adjustable rear view mirror. You could adjust it down here. That was the only reason. Sad. I worry myself, you know, that I'm a bit of a car hoarder. As I'm driving this now to the car wash, I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing? Should I? Or should I just keep it? No, I'm going to get rid. Or at least try to. I will wash it, photograph it, and then try and rehome it. That's what we'll do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about the Ford Pro's history, which is quite interesting, isn't it? I enjoyed reading up about it. And yeah, another one where I've massively overspent, and on this occasion I've got it slightly wrong. These things happen, don't they? Hopefully in the next episode there'll be some profit, not a big fat loss. Anyway, such is life. But thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, see you next time. Cheers guys. Bye.